Joining me now is Mark Chalmers of Energy Fuels. Mark, welcome.
Good to see you, Stu, again.
Yeah, I know. And it's interesting to revisit where we're at in the uranium markets because the price hasn't fluctuated much since we talked about a year and a half ago, but the interest is starting to intensify around it, especially in the United States. You are the largest uranium producer, and as I understand, you're sitting on the largest in situ resource in the United States. What does that do for you as a company in your ability to take advantage of opportunity as it starts to emerge? And it looks like it's starting to emerge.
Yeah, look, it's certainly a big differentiator for us as a company, both our resource and the number of projects that we have that are fully permitted, fully constructed, and some of those are currently operating. So we've got a first mover advantage without a doubt. You know, that we're very proud of that position.
Well, and you're an American-based company operating in the United States, and that brings tremendous advantage to that sector in the United States because there is a growing focus on that with the current administration.
Yeah, the current administration, this whole issue of critical minerals and the focus on that, of which uranium is one of those, and we are also the only primary producer of vanadium as well too. So yeah, we are getting a lot of attention from the U.S. government for the right reasons. We're the largest consumer of uranium in the entire world, and with some of the geopolitical tensions out there in the world, I think it shows why you want to have the basic capabilities in your country to be able to cover some of your requirements.
Well, you talk about some of those tensions that are happening in the world, and one of the most obvious is the trade war between China and the United States. How's that impacting the energy market?
I don't know, at least from the uranium perspective, how it's impacting this right now. But I do know this, that the Chinese have taken a national commitment to nuclear energy and fulfilling those requirements. So they're certainly building up, catching up to the Russians. So the two countries that are really trying to push forward their nuclear energy programs are the Russians and the Chinese. So never fool yourself. The Chinese are always there and always trying to take control of the agenda where they can.
One of the things that has struck me is that we're seeing a move away from conventional nuclear power plants and moving into the Gen 4. And so there seems to be a growing appetite for nuclear energy that maybe we didn't see even 8, 9, 10 years ago, especially in light of Fukushima.
Yeah. Look at modern nuclear technologies are advancing and getting a lot of attention. I mean, look at people like Bill Gates with TerraPower.
Yeah.
The small modular reactors, the microreactors. I think that this whole concern over carbon emissions is taking hold again. And if you're really serious about carbon emissions and global warming, you can't get there without nuclear as a major component. So I think there's some energy coming in, and I think that the world and the U.S. in particular, when you see people like Bill Gates getting into the game, people pay attention to that.
Well, they certainly do. You bring up the issue of climate change. Everywhere you go now, if you're not paying attention to it, you are missing out on opportunities, and you're going to miss out on investment dollars as well.
Yeah, I think, look, whether you're a believer or not, I mean, clean air has got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And nuclear energy does provide baseload clean energy. And again, we're very proud of that. And I think that, when you look at where most of the emissions are coming around the world, particularly in places like China and India,
yes,
they have to have nuclear power.
Yes, they do.
If they don't have nuclear power, they're going to choke the world. So, yeah, but we're very confident in the position we are in the United States. I've mined uranium all over the world over my career. So we're ready to go when the market's ready to respond to our product.
Well, everywhere I look, it looks to me like there is this growing appetite for it, whereas there had been an aversion not so long ago. And it's because not just changing climate, but changing attitudes about the way industry is supposed, and governments are supposed to respond to it.
Yeah, and I think too that nuclear is like one of the safest energy sources in the world, and it's proven to be such. And even though you have issues like Fukushima, where the tsunami killed 20,000 people or so, no one died that I know of at this point in time from radiation from that incident, but a lot of people died because of the natural tsunami that hit the coast.
But we hear about the nuclear meltdown more than that.
Exactly, but no, look, it's Stu, Energy Fuels is a very unique company. I'm very proud of the position that we hold here, and I'm very proud of the efforts that largely spearheaded by our company, the attention we've got by the United States government on the need to have a sustainable and growing nuclear fuel cycle in the United States once again.
Well, and the other project, of course, is vanadium, and it's playing an important role. And you're the only producer in the United States of vanadium.
We're the only primary producer. I go back with the vanadium business. I started as a uranium vanadium miner, so I worked underground in the uranium vanadium mines in the 70s.
Wow.
That dates me a little bit. But yeah, we do have a vanadium plant at White Mesa in Utah. Last year we did recover getting close to 2 million pounds of vanadium, very high quality. So that is not our main focus as a business, but it's a nice second focus, and we're very proud of the capabilities we have in that area.
So you've just raised some money.
Yes.
What will you use those funds for?
Well, we raised the money to strengthen our balance sheet. I think that we did get some criticism a couple weeks ago when we raised that money. We're not getting much criticism right now because we raised that money at probably it's like 30% premium to what our current share price is. We had a convertible debenture that matures at the end of this year. That became a current liability, and so we wanted to make sure we had the funds to cover that as and if required. But also, we're also preparing ourselves to start ramping up production at some of our sites in the United States, particularly trying and being in the best position, which we already are anyways, to fill some of this demand that the U.S. government is talking about a strategic national stockpile of uranium starting in 2021, which is not very far away.
No, it's not. This is a big push from the Trump administration. They're saying we want to have that stockpile.
Yeah, it is a big push, and as I said earlier, we're very proud that Energy Fuels was a leader in that push. So, that is a direct result of some of our activities in Washington, D.C., and it is the first time the United States government has looked at buying uranium since 1983.
From an American producer.
From an American producer. Now, no, they bought it for the government-owned utilities, but the United States government has not bought uranium for like the nuclear navy since 1983. So we think that is a real. We're creating an inflection point here that we haven't seen for several decades.
So it's looking promising right now.
Absolutely.
What do you think are some of the challenges that might still be in the road ahead? Because there's a wide range of different issues that are at play right now that put the resources sector always just a little bit on the edge. Is there anything there that you're paying attention to? You're going, okay, I got to watch out for that.
Well, look, it's improved a little bit in the last year or two, but it's still very difficult to develop properties in the United States, mining properties, because of the permits and how prescriptive a lot of these permits are. Some of the conflicts between the various agencies on who's got jurisdiction over what. We are losing a lot of skills. The skills for uranium mining, processing are increasingly aging out. I said I've been in the business since the 70s. I started when I was 18 years old. So, there's not a lot of young people in the business. There are a few, and we're really glad that we do have some young people. But the other thing is just this whole issue of the battle between the state-owned enterprises and the Western world. You know, you've got a lot of these state-owned enterprises, and they're actively trying to kind of take control of some of these business segments, particularly uranium with the Russians, Chinese.
Right.
The Westerners are struggling, including companies like Cameco that historically has been in a very strong position. They're struggling because they're finding it difficult to compete as well too. So it's never an easy business.
No.
You got to have a thick skin, and you got to be resilient, you got to be tenacious, and I think all those describe energy fuels.
Well, we're also at a time that we're recording this in the midst of what appears to be still a growing concern around the coronavirus. Do you have any sense of how it's going to impact the energy market?
Well, I think share price, it's impacted everybody quickly,
yes. Yeah.
But I think it's too early to tell exactly how it's going to impact the nuclear industry at this point in time. You know, I mean, it certainly, you know, has impacted people that need to go out and raise money, and certainly in the small end of the sector, you've got to have money to soldier on, and we're in a very strong position because we raised money 2 weeks ago. So, you know, I think one thing about this business is you always got to make sure you manage the upside and the downside.
Yes.
And if I've learned one thing in this industry over the 40-some years I've been involved in it, manage both.
Yes, it's true. You know, one last thing here that not directly related, but of course we're in resources, is the changing valuation of gold. People didn't expect to see it where it is right now, and it looks like it's still climbing. How is that having an impact on the energy sector?
Look, you know, in the resource sector, you know, all these things kind of move independent of each other. I mean, I think you do get you know, a certain amount of flow of interest from investors one way or another, depending on what seems to be the hotter commodity at the time. But you know, as you said, I think there are a number of new investors, generalist investors that are really looking at the uranium nuclear space as a good time to get in now. Yeah, no, it's all dynamic. And you got to be able to move quickly when you need to move.
Well, I look at your company and I do think that you are in a unique position, a very unique position, and that you're able to sort of hold that position as you wait for opportunity. You know, I wish you good luck, and hopefully you'll come back next year and give us another progress report on where you're at.
Certainly do so, Stu, but it's our pleasure to talk to you again.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll be back shortly.